Again, welcome to another edition of Hatty Waiver Guru. This is actually just a special episode I wanted to make before the season really got underway, just about building a dynasty team. As you can tell, I'm really into the dynasty teams um, here, and so we're really going to talk a lot about building a dynasty in this episode. We'll be covering quarterbacks, running backs, wide receivers, and tight ends as well. I'm going to give you some options of who I really highly recommend you go after and target. Whether you already own them, that's great. If you have a last-minute draft coming up before this week, I'm sure all your drafts are over. But here's some guys you should really be targeting in trades and really trying to at least get one of these guys on your team. It'd be nice if you had multiple on the guys on your team, but I understand coming from a deep league how hard it can be to get all the players that you might want on your team. So let's start with the quarterbacks. I'm going to get right into it. Really going to talk about, I think some of the keys to building a dynasty league is really looking at age and opportunity. You need to look at the quarterback's age, running back, wide receiver, tight end's age when you're thinking about dynasty. These are guys you want to hold on to for a while. These are guys you can build your team around. These are guys once you get, you don't trade. Unless, of course, the trade is overwhelming and you're just getting a ton of value. You really want to build your team around these guys. Starting with a quarterback. Quarterback is the toughest position because there's not as many quarterbacks I consider, dynasty worthy as far as building a franchise around. There's quarterbacks out there you can have, but as far as building a dynasty around, you really want to look at Tony Romo. He's the first one. Tony Romo is an incredible situation in Dallas. He is a lock there. He's got some great targets around him with Terrell Owens right now, Patrick Creighton, Jason Witten. And I'm sure Dallas, knowing Dallas, they will be able to recruit some more wide receiver talent. But Tony Romo is definitely in a great situation. Highly recommend him. My next pick for you is Jay Cutler out of the Broncos. And Jay is just, he's got a great situation. He's last year, towards the end of the year, kind of fell off because of the diabetes. He's got that under control. And I really think, with Brandon Marshall returns in week 2, this guy is incredible. You can build your dynasty around a guy like Jay Cutler. Again, those are the two guys. That's it. I mean, there's some others out there that you might want to look at, consider, but I wouldn't consider them like your franchise. You'd build your whole team around them. I really like what Eli Manning's doing as far as the dynasty league, and Matt Ryan. But everybody else, you're just gonna, I have got Kurt Warner I'm starting, but he surely isn't a great dynasty leaguer. But if you can get Romo or Cutler, you're in a great situation. You might want to stash a guy like Matt Ryan on the Falcons and Eli Manning on the Giants. You may just want to stash them on your bench. Great youth. You can probably carry them from year to year as well. Let's move on to the running backs. There's a lot of choices out there, but there's really 4 running backs that I would target to build your franchise around. These are dynasty guys. They're young. The oldest guy on this list, I believe, is 26. And we're going to start with Marion Barber, beast, another Cowboy, but he is a beast. He's a top 5 running back, and he'll be a top 5 running back for years to come. This guy is amazing. He pounds the ball. He wants it. He's a hard worker. He's dedicated. He's not injury prone. He is a stud. You want to target getting Marion Barber. The next is Steven Jackson. He had some holdout issues and blah, blah, blah. This guy's 26 and he's a beast. He is an absolute monster. When he's on the field, he is going to score you some serious points, and he's young. So grab Jackson immediately or trade for him. The next one I really like is Joe Adai. It's funny, all these guys have braids. So if they have braids coming out of their helmet, you're going to want to put them on your team. Joseph Adai is one of those guys that is going to be a great weekly starter. You can build your dynasty around him. Another up-and-comer I really like that I think you build your franchise around is Marshawn Lynch. Buffalo. I think Marshawn Lynch is going to be a great choice for your team. I also, speaking of braids coming out of the back of the helmet, I think Maroney will be all right. He's hated on. He's in running back by committee maybe. But if you looked at the last run there in the playoffs, Maroney has got the talent for sure. And I think you can get him right now for cheap. Maybe a guy you just want to try and trade for and stash on your team, but Lawrence Maroney. But the 4 guys that I really like that are my franchise guys, you have Marion Barber, Steven Jackson, Joseph Adai, and Marshawn Lynch. Those are my 4 running backs. Let's move on to wide receivers. Looking at wide receivers, these guys last forever. I mean, we've got wide receivers that last in their 30s. Look at Marvin Harrison. He's going to be productive this year. Okay, you're not going to find, I mean, look at Torrey Holt. These guys last forever. So if you can find a stud in their mid-20s, I mean, this guy can be on your team for the next 10 years. Okay, this is a guy, and there's 4 of them out there right now. But my number 1 choice all around, and even taking away the Arizona Cardinals bias because that is my team of choice, Larry Fitzgerald. Larry Fitzgerald will last you years. Okay, he's going to be productive. He's incredible. He's got the talent. He can't speak highly enough. Once you get Larry Fitzgerald, don't trade him. Keep him. Keep him, keep him, keep him. Especially in Dynasty, just keep him. Once you got him, you got him. It's great. Brandon Marshall's next. I think this kid's going to be phenomenal. He's suspended in week 1. But as far as Dynasty outlook and building your team around a wide receiver, I like Brandon Marshall a lot. I think he'll be a top 10 wide receiver for years to come. Next is Braylon Edwards. Very young. He's 25. Braylon Edwards is 25, guys. Put him on your team and keep him there. He's incredible talent. I don't know if you saw a preseason catch, but he had a one-handed grab. I mean, he just brought it right in, landed in the end zone. The guy has got talent for days. Braylon Edwards, build your team around him. Next, Santonio Holmes, tall guy, 24. Pittsburgh, I don't care where he plays. Santonio Holmes is solid. In my opinion, he's a top 12 wide receiver, and you can build your league around your team around Holmes. So Fitzgerald, Marshall, Braylon Edwards, and Holmes. Get one of them, put them on your team, hold them, and don't trade them. You've got a good guy. Target those guys in trades. If you already have them on your team, congratulations. Other 2, I'll just give you a couple others I like. Young guys that I think will be good. Keep an eye on them. I'm not quite certain, I can call them studs and build their team around, but I like Calvin Johnson and Dwayne Bowe. Calvin Johnson, Dwayne Bowe are other guys you can target. Kind of like folks will probably comment and say, why didn't you say Adrian Peterson or someone in your running back section? Well, I'm just not setting thought on these guys yet. Maybe next year when I'm doing this, I'll tell you differently. But Calvin Johnson, Dwayne Bowe, they're not my top 4. But the 4 wide receivers you want to target, Larry Fitzgerald, Brandon Marshall, Braylon Edwards, and Santonio Holmes. Those are your guys. Okay, let's move on to tight ends, and then we'll be done here. Tight ends, these guys, tight ends are tight ends. If you had the choice of getting a top tight end or a top wide receiver, top running back, tight end would be your last choice. It's not going to be up there as far as the skill position. But tight ends are important nonetheless, so let's talk about them. Jason Witten, cream of the crop. Okay, you get Jason Witten, don't trade him. You got a great tight end for years to come, young guy, another Cowboy. It's really funny. I got 3 Cowboys on these lists. Okay, so Cowboys obviously are a great dynasty team. So you're going to see the Cowboys be a great team for years to come, as long as they don't trade these guys don't get hurt. But Jason Witten, great person. Next is Kellen Winslow. Okay, Kellen Winslow, excellent. His father was a stud. He's going to be a stud. The apple doesn't fall far from the tree. Kellen Winslow is a great pickup. Put him on your team and don't trade him. Next is Cooley. Okay, Cooley of the Redskins, 26 years old, talented. This guy is consistent, and there's nothing better than a consistent tight end. Cooley will be a good one, and Heath Miller falls on that list too. Heath Miller, he is only 25, if you can believe it. Heath Miller, you hear the name, like this guy must be in his 30s. He's not. He's a young guy. He's excellent. I would get him, stash him, keep him, don't trade him. Okay, so the 4 that I recommend, Witten, Winslow, Cooley, and Miller. Grab them, keep them, don't trade them. If you want someone who's unproven, who I've seen live in the stands when he was in college, is Vernon Davis. Vernon Davis, I think he's got the talent. We don't know 100% that he's going to be I can't label him as build your franchise around him or anything, but Vernon Davis. So let's quick rundown of everyone that I mentioned. Quarterbacks, Romo, Cutler. Running backs, you have Barber, Jackson, Adai, and Lynch. Wide receivers, Fitzgerald, Marshall, Edwards, and Holmes. And finally in the tight ends, Witten, Winslow, Cooley, and Miller. Again, this is just a special section. I'm going to be really, for the rest of the year, just focused on waiver wire gems, deep sleepers. I'm not gonna be really talking about guys you're gonna read on most fantasy sites. I'm gonna give you waivers that are just like, oh, where's he coming from? But I got to differentiate myself.